The research vessel Endeavour rocked gently on the calm Pacific waters, 200 miles west of California. Dr. Rebecca Martinez stood on the deck, watching her team prepare the deep-sea scanning equipment. She had been searching for shipwrecks for 15 years, but today felt different somehow. "Sonar readings coming through now, Doc," called out her assistant Jake from the control room. His voice carried excitement that made Rebecca hurry inside. The sonar display showed something, massive on the ocean floor 3 miles beneath their feet. Rebecca stared at the screen, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The object was huge, far bigger than any known shipwreck. It stretched nearly 2 kilometers across the seafloor like a sleeping giant. "That can't be right," Rebecca muttered, adjusting the controls. "Run the scan again." Jake's fingers danced over the keyboard. The second scan showed the same thing. Whatever lay on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean was enormous and clearly artificial, but its shape was wrong. No human ship had ever been built. "Like that? Get me the Navy on the radio," Rebecca said quietly. "Priority channel." Within 6 hours, Captain James Fletcher's helicopter touched down on the Endeavour's small landing pad. Fletcher was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes, who had seen enough strange things in his 30-year naval career to keep an open mind. "Show me what you found, Doctor," Fletcher said as soon as he stepped aboard. Rebecca led him to the sonar station. The images were clearer now after hours of scanning. The object had smooth curves and angles that no earthly shipbuilder would ever use. It was buried under centuries of ocean sediment, but parts of it still rose from the seafloor like the ribs of some massive creature. "How long has it been down there?" Fletcher asked. "Based on the sediment layers, at least 1,000 years, maybe longer." Rebecca pulled up geological data on her tablet. "The currents in this area are slow. It would take centuries to bury something this deep." Fletcher studied the images carefully. His expression grew more serious with each passing minute. "Doctor, I need you to understand something. What we're looking at here could change everything. I'm going to make some calls." By the next morning, the Endeavour was surrounded by Navy ships. Scientists arrived by helicopter every few hours, each one more excited than the last. Rebecca watched as her quiet research mission turned into something much bigger. Dr. Michael Chen arrived on the second day. He was an expert in ancient languages and symbols, though he had never expected to use his skills on something like this. He stood beside Rebecca at the ship's rail, looking out at the growing fleet around them. "They're calling in everyone," Michael said. "Archaeologists, engineers, physicists, half the scientific community wants to be here." Rebecca nodded. "Can you blame them? We might be looking at proof that we're not alone in the universe." The first underwater probe went down on the 3rd day. Rebecca and her team gathered around the monitors as the small robot descended through the dark water. At 1 mile deep, they switched on the powerful lights. At 2 miles, strange fish swam past the camera, their bodies glowing in the darkness. At 3 miles, the seafloor came into view. "There," Jake whispered, pointing at the screen. The probe's lights revealed something that made everyone in the room fall silent. Rising from the ocean floor was a structure that clearly had not been built by human hands. The hull was smooth and curved, made from some kind of dark metal that barely showed any damage, despite centuries underwater. "Move the probe along the hull," Rebecca instructed. As the robot moved, they saw more of the incredible structure. Strange symbols covered parts of the hull, carved or printed in patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. The ship had no visible seams or joints. It looked like it had been grown rather than built. "Look at that," Michael said, his voice full of wonder. He was taking notes as fast as he could write. "Those symbols, they're not like anything in human history." The probe continued its journey along the alien hull. They found what looked like weapon ports, though they were sealed and dark. They found areas that might have been engines, though their design made no sense to human engineers. Most shocking of all, they found a massive breach in the hull. The opening was ragged and torn, as if something powerful had ripped through the alien metal. Ocean water had flooded inside long ago. It crashed, Rebecca said softly. This ship crashed here. Fletcher leaned forward, studying the damage. The question is, what made it crash? And are there any survivors? Over the next 2 days, more probes explored the wreck. They found that the ship was even larger than first thought. Parts of it extended deep into the ocean floor, buried by time and sediment. The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers, some flooded, others still holding pockets of alien atmosphere. The breakthrough came when marine engineer Lisa Park arrived with her team. Lisa was known for her ability to work in the deepest parts of the ocean. She took one look at the probe footage and started planning a human expedition inside the wreck. "We can do it," she told Fletcher and Rebecca. "My team has the best deep-sea suits in the world. We can get people inside that ship." Fletcher was hesitant. "The risks are enormous. We don't know what's in there. The structure could collapse. There could be dangerous gases or radiation. There could also be the greatest discovery in human history," Rebecca added quietly. That evening, Rebecca stood alone on the deck of the Endeavour. Around her, the Navy ships glowed with lights as crews worked through the night. In the distance, more ships were arriving, bringing equipment and experts from around the world. She thought about the alien ship lying in the darkness below. Who had built it? Where had they come from? What had happened to make them crash on Earth so long ago? The questions filled her mind and made sleep impossible. Tomorrow, humans would enter an alien spacecraft for the first time in history. Rebecca knew that whatever they found inside would change humanity forever. The only question was whether that change would be for better or worse. The ocean around them remained calm and quiet, keeping its ancient secrets for one more night. The morning sun painted the Pacific Ocean gold as Lisa Park suited up for the most important dive of her life. Her deep-sea exploration suit looked like something from a science fiction movie, with thick metal joints and a transparent helmet that could withstand crushing ocean pressure. "Final systems check," Lisa spoke into her radio. Around her, 3 other divers prepared their equipment. Each person had trained for years to work in the deepest parts of the ocean, but none had ever imagined they would be the first humans to enter an alien spacecraft. Captain Fletcher stood nearby, his face showing the stress of the past week. Ever since word of the discovery had spread, governments around the world had been fighting over who controlled the alien ship. The United Nations had sent representatives. The Chinese Navy had ships on the horizon. The Russians were demanding access to any technology found inside. "Remember, this is just reconnaissance," Fletcher told the dive team. "Get inside, take pictures, and get out. Don't touch anything unless you have to." Dr. Rebecca Martinez felt her heart racing as she watched the team enter the water. She would give anything to be going down with them, but her expertise was needed topside to analyze whatever they found. The descent took 40 minutes. Lisa and her team dropped through layers of ocean life, past schools of fish and jellyfish, into the cold darkness of the deep sea. Their suit lights cut through the black water like swords. "Bottom coming up," Lisa reported as the seafloor appeared below them. The alien ship rose from the ocean floor like a mountain. Up close, it was even more impressive than the probe footage had shown. The hull curved away in both directions, disappearing into the darkness. Strange patterns covered the surface, looking almost like writing but unlike any human language. "There's the breach," called out Dave, one of Lisa's team members. The opening in the ship's hull was enormous, easily big enough for their submersible to pass through. Lisa guided her team toward the opening. Her heart pounded as they passed through the torn metal and entered the alien ship for the first time. Their lights revealed a corridor that stretched away into darkness. "We're inside," Lisa whispered into her radio. "The corridor is huge. The ceiling is at least 20 feet high." The team moved slowly through the flooded passage. Water filled the lower levels, but they could see air pockets trapped against the ceiling in some areas. The walls were covered with the same strange symbols they had seen outside. "The architecture is incredible," Dave said, running his gloved hand along the wall. "Look at how smooth everything is. No welds, no joints. It's like the entire ship was carved from one piece of metal." They came to a junction where 3 corridors met. Lisa checked her map, trying to stay oriented in the maze-like interior. They had studied the probe footage for days, but being inside the ship felt completely different. "Which way do we go?" asked Sarah, the team's photographer. Lisa consulted her navigation system. The probe found what looked like a control room about 200 meters that way. "Let's head there first." As they moved deeper into the ship, the team began to notice details that the probes had missed. The corridors were clearly designed for beings much larger than humans. Control panels were mounted high on the walls, far above where a human could comfortably reach them. "Whatever built this ship was tall," Sarah observed. "Maybe 8 or 9 feet, based on these doorways." They found their first major chamber after 30 minutes of careful swimming. Lisa's lights revealed a vast space filled with strange equipment. Curved surfaces and organic shapes dominated the room, making it look more grown than built. "This has to be some kind of control center," Lisa said, her voice echoing strangely in the flooded chamber. Banks of dark screens covered the walls, and what looked like control stations were arranged in a circle around the room's center. Dr. Michael Chen's voice crackled through the radio from the surface. "Can you see any symbols or writing? Anything that might give us clues about the builders?" Sarah moved closer to one of the control panels, her camera capturing every detail. "There are symbols everywhere. They're carved into the surfaces, not just painted or printed. Some of them almost look like they're moving in the light." The team spent an hour documenting the control room before moving on. They found more chambers, each one filled with mysterious equipment and strange architectural features. Some rooms had what looked like furniture, though it was sized for beings much larger than humans. It was in the 7th chamber that they made their most important discovery. "Lisa, you need to see this," Dave called out from across the room. Lisa swam over to where Dave was floating near the far wall. Her lights revealed a series of large egg-shaped objects mounted in alcoves along the wall. Each object was about the size of a small car and made from the same smooth material as the ship itself. "Are those what I think they are?" Sarah asked, her camera clicking rapidly. Lisa studied the objects carefully. They had an organic look, like giant cocoons or chrysalises. More importantly, most of them were dark and cold, but 3 still glowed with a faint blue light. "I think they're some kind of stasis pods," Lisa said quietly. "And some of them are still active." The radio exploded with voices from the surface as everyone tried to talk at once. Captain Fletcher's voice cut through the chaos. "Are you saying there are aliens still alive in there?" Lisa swam closer to one of the glowing pods. Through the semi-transparent surface, she could see a shadowy form inside. It was large and had too many limbs to be human, but it was definitely alive. She could see gentle movement, as if the being inside was breathing slowly. 3 of the pods are still functioning," Lisa reported. "There are definitely life forms inside them." Dr. Rebecca Martinez's voice came through the radio, tight with excitement and fear. "Don't get too close. We have no idea what kind of life support systems they're using or what might happen if you disturb them." The team spent another hour documenting the chamber with the pods. They found 12 pods total, but only 3 showed any signs of life. The others were dark and had clearly failed long ago. As they prepared to return to the surface, Lisa took one last look at the glowing pods. Somewhere inside those strange containers were the first alien beings that humans had ever encountered. They had been sleeping in the depths of the ocean for centuries, waiting for someone to find them. "Surface team, this is Lisa," she said into her radio. "We're coming up, and we're going to need to talk about what to do next." The ascent seemed to take forever. Lisa's mind raced with questions and possibilities. The discovery of sleeping aliens would change everything for humanity, but it also raised dangerous questions. Who were these beings? Why had they crashed on Earth? And what would happen when they woke up? As the team broke the surface and climbed aboard the Endeavour, Lisa could see that the world had already begun to change. More ships surrounded them now, and helicopters circled overhead like sharks. The first contact with an alien species was about to begin, whether humanity was ready or not. The argument had been going on for 3 days. In the command center aboard the Endeavour, voices rose and fell as scientists, military officers, and government representatives debated what to do about the sleeping aliens. "We should wait, Doctor," Rebecca Martinez insisted. "Study them more. Learn about their technology before we make contact." Captain Fletcher shook his head. "Every day we wait, more countries send ships to claim this discovery. Soon we'll have a war over who controls first contact." Chief Engineer Tom Wilson sat quietly in the corner, studying technical diagrams of the alien ship's power systems. He was a practical man who solved problems with his hands rather than words. While everyone else argued about politics, Tom was figuring out how to actually communicate with the beings in the pods. "The ship's power is almost dead," Tom finally said, interrupting the debate. "Those stasis pods are running on emergency backup systems. If we don't do something soon, the aliens inside will die anyway." Dr. Michael Chen looked up from his notes about the alien symbols. "But we don't know what will happen if we restore power. We could kill them by accident." Tom pulled out his tablet, showing electrical diagrams he had mapped from the probe data. "I've been studying their power distribution system for 2 days. It's actually pretty simple once you understand how it works. I think I can interface our generators with their systems." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Tom was suggesting. They could try to save the sleeping aliens by giving their ship more power, but they would also be taking the first active step toward awakening beings from another world. Commander Elena Rodriguez had been listening from the doorway. She was a former diplomat who now served as the military's advisor on first contact. Protocols. Her job was to think about all the ways meeting aliens could go wrong. "If we're going to do this," Elena said, "we need to be prepared for any outcome. They might be peaceful. They might be hostile. They might be so different from us that communication is impossible." Captain Fletcher made the decision. "We do it. Tom, how long do you need to set up the power transfer?" 6 hours, Tom replied. "Maybe 8 if we run into problems." That afternoon, Tom and his engineering team worked frantically to prepare the power connection. They lowered thick electrical cables from the Endeavour down to the alien ship. Waterproof connectors had to be custom-built to interface with the strange alien technology. Lisa Park led another dive team down to help install the connections inside the ship. Working in the flooded corridors with heavy equipment was dangerous, but everyone knew they were running out of time. "Connection secure on level 3, Lisa reported through her radio. "The alien systems are responding to our test signals." Tom monitored the power flow from his station on the surface. The alien technology was incredibly efficient. Their generators were pumping electricity into the ship, but the alien systems were only drawing a fraction of what human technology would need. "It's like they built everything to run on almost no power," Tom muttered to himself. "No wonder their backup systems lasted so long." As power flowed into the alien ship, things began to change. Lights that had been dark for centuries started to glow softly. Symbols on the walls began to pulse with gentle rhythms. The ship was slowly coming back to life. "The stasis pods are responding," Lisa reported from inside the ship. "The blue glow is getting brighter." Dr. Chen worked frantically to understand the symbols that were now active throughout the ship. Patterns of light moved along the walls like messages being passed from one section to another. The ship was clearly some kind of computer, awakening after a long sleep. "I think the ship is running automatic systems," Chen said over the radio. "It's checking its own condition, maybe trying to repair damage." 2 hours after Tom restored power, the first pod began to open. Lisa and her team were in the chamber when it happened. The pod that held the first alien being started to drain the blue liquid that filled it. Steam rose from vents that opened along its sides. "Surface team, the pod is opening," Lisa whispered into her radio. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it inside her helmet. The pod's transparent cover slid back with a soft hiss. Lisa's lights revealed the first alien being that humans had ever seen alive. It was tall, just as they had expected from the ship's design. The creature was about 8 feet long, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. It had 4 arms instead of 2, and its head was larger than a human's with eyes that took up much of its face. The alien's eyes opened slowly. They were huge and luminous, like looking into deep pools of water. For a moment, the creature just lay still, breathing slowly and looking around with confusion. Then it saw Lisa and her team. The alien's reaction was immediate and terrifying. It thrashed in the pod, making sounds that were part scream and part something else entirely. Its 4 arms moved in panic, and its eyes went wide with what could only be fear. "It's afraid of us," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice calm. "It thinks we're the enemy." The second pod began opening, then the third. Soon 3 alien beings were awake and looking at the human dive team with terror and confusion. They communicated with each other using sounds that ranged from musical tones to harsh clicks. Commander Elena Rodriguez had prepared for this moment. She had studied every first contact protocol ever written, though none of them had been designed for meeting aliens underwater in their own ship. "Lisa, back away slowly," Elena instructed through the radio. "Don't make any sudden movements. Try to show them you're not a threat." Lisa and her team moved to the far side of the chamber. The aliens watched them carefully, their large eyes tracking every movement. One of them, larger than the others, began to make complex gestures with its multiple arms. Dr. Chen was recording everything. "Those gestures look deliberate. I think it's trying to communicate with us." The lead alien pointed at itself, then at its companions, then at the damaged areas of the ship. The meaning seemed clear. They were the survivors of whatever had brought the ship down. Then the alien pointed at Lisa and her team and made different gestures. The tone of its voice changed, becoming more questioning than fearful. "I think it's asking who we are," Elena said. "And maybe asking what happened to their ship." Lisa slowly removed one of her equipment packs and placed it on the floor. She stepped back and gestured toward it, trying to show the aliens that humans had tools and technology. The aliens watched with obvious intelligence and curiosity. The largest alien made a decision. It climbed carefully out of its pod, moving with surprising grace despite being underwater for the first time in centuries. It approached the equipment pack slowly, studying it with those enormous eyes. When it touched the human-made device, something remarkable happened. The alien's eyes widened with what could only be surprise. It picked up the pack and examined it closely, then looked at Lisa with what seemed like recognition. "I think it understands that we're intelligent," Lisa said softly. "It knows we made this." The alien began making new sounds more complex than before. It gestured at the damaged walls of the ship, then at the human equipment, then at Lisa and her team. The message was becoming clear even without shared language. The aliens were trying to tell the humans that something had destroyed their ship, and they wanted to know if the humans could help them. First contact had begun, not with grand speeches or formal ceremonies, but with 3 frightened aliens and 4 humans trying to understand each other in a flooded chamber 3 miles beneath the ocean. What they learned from each other in the coming hours would determine whether humanity's first contact with alien life would lead to friendship or disaster. 2 weeks had passed since the first contact with the alien survivors. The lead alien, who the humans had learned to call Vorthak through a series of musical tones, had been brought to the surface in a specially built water tank. Communication was still difficult, but progress was being made every day. Dr. Michael Chen worked around the clock with Vorthak, using mathematics and simple drawings to build a basic vocabulary. The alien was incredibly intelligent and seemed desperate to share important information with the humans. Commander Elena Rodriguez watched as Chen held up a drawing of the solar system. Vorthak's large eyes studied the picture carefully. Then, the alien began making urgent sounds and gestures. "He's trying to tell us something about space," Chen said, looking frustrated. "Something about other planets, other stars. But I can't understand the details." Dr. Amanda Foster had joined the team a week earlier. She was one of the world's best theoretical physicists, brought in to study the alien technology. She watched Vorthak's attempts to communicate with growing concern. "Show him a picture of Earth," Amanda suggested. "Then show him pictures of other planets being destroyed." Chen drew a simple picture of Earth, then drew other circles with big X marks through them. Vorthak's reaction was immediate and terrifying. The alien became agitated, making loud sounds and moving all four arms in complex patterns. "That's it," Elena said. "He's trying to warn us about something that destroys planets." Over the next few days, through patient work with pictures and basic mathematics, the humans began to understand Vorthak's message. The alien came from a part of the galaxy where a terrible enemy was destroying every intelligent species it encountered. The enemy was called something that sounded like devourers when Vorthak tried to say it in human language. They were not biological creatures like Vorthak's people, but machines, intelligent machines that had been built long ago by a species that was now extinct. "The devourers consume everything," Chen translated as Vorthak gestured frantically. "They turn entire worlds into raw materials to build more of themselves. They've been doing this for millions of years." Captain Fletcher felt a chill run down his spine. "How many civilizations have they destroyed?" Chen asked the question using their improvised sign language. Vorthak's answer was a gesture that meant countless, or too many to count. The alien continued his story. His people, the Kalari, had been a peaceful species that lived on ocean worlds like Earth. When the devourers found them, the Kalari tried to negotiate. They offered to share their technology and knowledge in exchange for being left alone. The devourers' response was to begin harvesting the Kalari homeworld immediately. Vorthak's ship was part of a refugee fleet, Chen explained as the alien continued his story. Thousands of ships trying to escape to other parts of the galaxy. Most of them were caught and destroyed. Amanda Foster studied the technical data that Vorthak had shown them about the devourers. The machines were incredibly advanced, with technology that made even the Kalari ships look primitive. They could travel between stars faster than anything the humans had imagined possible. "How long ago did his ship crash here?" Amanda asked. Chen posed the question to Vorthak. The alien's answer made everyone in the room go silent. "About 800 years ago," Chen said quietly. "But he says the devourers are still out there, still spreading, still destroying everything in their path." Elena felt her heart racing. "Are they coming here, to Earth?" Vorthak's response to that question was the most frightening yet. The alien pointed at the human technology around him, then made gestures indicating detection and discovery. His meaning was clear. "By restoring power to their ship, we sent out signals," Amanda realized. "The devourers might have detected us." Vorthak confirmed her fear with urgent gestures and sounds. He drew pictures showing the devourers' scout ships, small and fast, always searching for signs of intelligent life. When they found a world with technology, they called for the main fleet. "How long do we have?" Fletcher asked. Vorthak held up his four arms, showing different numbers of fingers. Chen worked out the mathematics. "He thinks maybe 6 months, maybe less if we're unlucky." The room fell into shocked silence. 6 months to prepare for an enemy that had destroyed countless civilizations across the galaxy. 6 months before, Earth faced machines that had been perfecting the art of destruction for millions of years. "What about other species?" Elena asked. "Surely someone has found a way to fight back." Chen translated the question. Vorthak's response was heartbreaking. He showed them pictures of the different ways civilizations had tried to survive the Devourers. Some tried to hide by shutting down all their technology. Others tried to surrender and offer their services to the machines. Still others tried to run to distant parts of the galaxy. None of it had worked. The Devourers always found them. They always won. Every species tries the same things, Chen said, translating Vorthak's gestures. Hide, surrender, or run. The Devourers have seen it all before. Dr. Amanda Foster was studying Vorthak's technical drawings of the Devourer machines. Something about their design bothered her, but she couldn't put her finger on what it was. What? About fighting back? She asked. Has anyone ever tried to actually fight them? Vorthak's response was interesting. Some species had tried to fight, but they always used the same basic strategies. They built bigger weapons, stronger ships, better defenses. They tried to out-technology the machines at their own game. It never worked. The Devourers had been building and improving their technology for millions of years. No single species could match their industrial capacity or their accumulated knowledge. But what if someone tried something completely different? Amanda asked. What if someone fought them in a way they hadn't seen before? Vorthak made gestures that indicated confusion. The concept of fighting the Devourers in a new way seemed strange to him. Every species fought the same way because there was only one logical way to fight a superior enemy. Elena looked around the room at her fellow humans. She saw fear in their eyes, but she also saw something else. Something that maybe the other species hadn't had when they faced the Devourers. Vorthak, she said, waiting for the alien to focus on her. Your people and all the others, they were more advanced than us, right? Better technology, better ships, better weapons? Chen translated the question. Vorthak confirmed it with gestures that indicated the humans were like children compared to most galactic civilizations. But they all lost, Elena continued. All those advanced species with their superior technology, they all failed. She looked around the room at her teammates. Maybe that's exactly why they failed. Maybe being more advanced made them predictable. Amanda. Foster suddenly understood what Elena was thinking. The Devourers have fought every kind of advanced military in the galaxy, but they've never fought anything like humans. Captain Fletcher was beginning to see it too. We're crude. We're primitive. We don't follow the rules that other species follow. We don't even know what the rules are supposed to be, Elena added. Vorthak watched the humans with growing confusion as they became more excited rather than more frightened. His people had reacted to the news of the Devourers with despair and resignation. These strange creatures from Earth were reacting with something that looked almost like anticipation. Elena turned back to Vorthak. You said every species tries. The same three things when they meet the Devourers. Hide, surrender, or run. What if we try a fourth option? Chen translated the question. Vorthak made gestures asking what the fourth option could possibly be. Elena smiled grimly. We do what humans do best. We improvise, we adapt, and we fight dirty. The alien stared at her with those enormous eyes, clearly not understanding what she meant. But around the room, the other humans were beginning to nod. They were starting to understand that Earth's best hope might not be its technology or its weapons. Earth's best hope might be the one thing that no other species in the galaxy could offer, the completely unpredictable chaos of human ingenuity. 3 months after learning about the Devourers, Earth had transformed into something unrecognizable. Every factory, every shipyard, every research facility was working on the same goal, preparing for war in the most human way possible. Colonel. David Harper stood in what used to be a car manufacturing plant in Detroit. Now it was producing something that would have seemed impossible just months before. Hybrid human-alien warships that looked like nothing any civilized species would build. Show me the latest design, David said to the chief engineer. Katie Sullivan was a small woman with oil-stained hands and fierce determination. She had led the team that figured out how to combine Kalari technology with human manufacturing techniques. The results were ugly, crude, and absolutely terrifying. "We call this one the Berserker class," Katie said, pointing to the ship taking shape on the assembly line. "It's built around a Kalari power core, but everything else is pure human engineering." The ship looked like someone had taken a sledgehammer to elegant alien design. Where Kalari ships had smooth curves, the human version had sharp angles and brutal efficiency. Where alien ships had sophisticated weapon systems, the humans had bolted on every type of destructive device they could imagine. "The Kalari weapons are too precise," Katie explained. "They're designed to disable enemy ships without unnecessary destruction. We threw that philosophy out the window." David walked around the ship, noting the missile pods, railguns, and energy weapons that covered its hull like a metal porcupine. "What about the fusion bombs?" Katie grinned. "Each ship carries 12 nuclear warheads modified with Kalari technology. If we can't outfight them, we'll out-crazy them." Across the factory floor, human workers were building ships as fast as possible. The assembly line ran 24 hours a day, with 3 shifts of workers who understood that the fate of their species depended on their speed and creativity. Vorthak visited the factory regularly, though the sights he saw there clearly disturbed him. The Kalari way of building ships involved careful planning, precise engineering, and elegant solutions. The human way involved making things work through brute force and creative chaos. "Your species approaches war like no other I have seen," Vorthak told Elena through their improved translation system. "You seem to enjoy the challenge." Elena watched a group of workers attaching extra armor plating to a ship using nothing but welding torches and determination. "We don't enjoy war, but we're very good at it." The real innovations were happening in research facilities around the world. Dr. Amanda Foster had been working with teams of scientists to understand devourer technology from the data Vorthak had provided. What they discovered gave humanity its first real advantage. "The devourers are too perfect," Amanda explained to the Joint Chiefs of Staff during a video conference. "They've optimized their technology over millions of years. Every system works exactly as intended. Every protocol is followed precisely." General Patricia Wells leaned forward on the screen. "How is that a weakness?" "Because perfection makes you predictable," Amanda replied. "The Devourers have fought every advanced civilization in the galaxy, and they've learned to counter every logical military strategy. But they've never fought anything illogical." The breakthrough came when Captain Robert Hayes suggested something that horrified Vorthak but excited the human military leaders. Instead of building ships designed to survive battle, why not build ships designed to be destroyed in the most damaging way possible? "Kamikaze tactics," Robert explained to the assembled officers. "But with a twist, we don't just ram them. We turn our ships into the biggest, nastiest bombs we can imagine." Katie Sullivan's engineering team went to work immediately. They designed ships that looked normal on the outside, but were actually massive explosive devices waiting to detonate. The crew compartments were heavily armored to protect the pilots during their approach, but everything else was designed to cause maximum destruction when the ship exploded. "We call them boom boats," Katie said, showing off the latest design. "One pilot, minimal life support, maximum boom. The entire ship is basically a guided missile that happens to have a human inside." Vorthak was deeply disturbed by this approach to warfare. The Kalari had always tried to minimize casualties and preserve life. The human approach seemed designed to maximize chaos and destruction. "Your species has a strange relationship with death," he observed to Elena. "We're not crazy about dying," Elena replied, "but we're willing to do it if it means our families survive. That's something the Devourers probably haven't encountered before." The most shocking innovation came from Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a computer scientist who specialized in virus creation. She had been studying the way devourer machines communicated with each other, looking for weaknesses in their network protocols. "They're all connected," Jennifer explained excitedly. Every Devourer unit shares information instantly with every other unit. It makes them incredibly coordinated, but it also makes them vulnerable. She had created a computer virus designed specifically to attack machine intelligence networks. But this wasn't an ordinary virus. It was designed to think like a human. Most computer viruses follow predictable patterns, Jennifer said. They try to spread as efficiently as possible, or cause damage in systematic ways. This virus is different. It's designed to be chaotic, unpredictable, and annoying. The virus would randomly change Devourer targeting systems, make their weapons fire at wrong angles, cause their ships to play human music instead of following orders, and generally create the kind of technological chaos that would drive a perfectionist. Machine intelligence completely insane. It's like giving a supercomputer a migraine, Jennifer explained. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Commander Mark Thompson was a Navy communications officer who had been working with Vorthok to understand Kalari communication methods. The Kalari used complex harmonic patterns to share information and emotions. Their language was like music, with different tones and rhythms conveying different meanings. Mark had been trying to learn their language when he made a startling discovery. Human music disrupts their communication, Mark told Elena excitedly. When I play rock music near Vorthak, he can't maintain his harmonic speech patterns. The chaotic rhythms interfere with his brain somehow. Elena stared at him. Are you saying music is a weapon? I'm saying human music is unlike anything else in the galaxy, Mark replied. Vorthak says most species develop very structured, mathematical forms of music. Human music is emotional, chaotic, unpredictable. It's like noise to most alien minds. But the implications were staggering. If human music could disrupt Kalari communication, it might also disrupt Devourer machine networks. The machines communicated using precise, efficient data streams. Human music was the opposite of precise and efficient. Within days, every human ship was equipped with the most powerful sound systems that could be built. The plan was simple. When the Devourers arrived, Earth would greet them with the loudest, most chaotic concert in galactic history. We're going to fight them with rock and roll, Elena said, hardly believing the words as she spoke them. Vorthak watched the human preparations with a mixture of admiration and terror. Never in galactic history had a species prepared for war, by gathering every form of artistic expression they had ever created. The humans were loading their ships with weapons, bombs, viruses, and music libraries. You are either the bravest species I have ever encountered, Vorthak told Elena, or the most insane. Elena looked out at the shipyards where hundreds of human-built warships were taking shape. Each one was different, built by different teams, with different ideas about how to fight an enemy that had never been defeated. Maybe there's no difference, she replied. The Devourer scout ships were detected at the edge of the solar system 2 weeks later. The main fleet would arrive within days. Humanity's first interstellar war was about to begin, and they were going to fight it like no species ever had before, with creativity, chaos, and the combined musical heritage of human civilization as their weapons. The Devourer fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of mechanical locusts. Their ships were perfect geometric shapes, arranged in precise formations that spoke of millions of years of military efficiency. They had come, expecting to find either a dead world or a cowering civilization ready for harvest. Instead, they found something that had never existed before in galactic history, a species that greeted an invasion with defiance and bad music. Captain Robert Hayes sat in the cockpit of his boomboat, watching the enemy fleet approach on his screens. His ship was packed with enough explosives to level a small city, and his sound system was loaded with every aggressive song humans had ever written. All units, this is Control, came Elena's voice over the radio. Remember, we're not trying to win a traditional battle. We're trying to survive long enough to show them something they've never seen before. The Devourer ships moved with mechanical precision toward Earth. Their formation was flawless, their approach calculated to minimize losses while maximizing the efficiency of planetary harvesting. They had done this countless times before. Then, the human fleet met them halfway between Earth and Mars, and galactic warfare changed forever. "All ships begin the concert," Elena ordered. Suddenly, space filled with sound. Not the elegant harmonics that most civilized species used for communication, but raw, chaotic human music. Heavy metal, jazz, classical symphonies, pop songs, folk. Music and electronic beats all played simultaneously from hundreds of human ships. The effect on the Devourer fleet was immediate and shocking. Their perfect formations wavered as their communication networks were disrupted by the chaos of human artistic expression. Ships that had operated in flawless coordination for millions of years suddenly found themselves unable to share data effectively. "It's working," Dr. Jennifer Walsh reported from the command ship. "Their network efficiency is dropping by 60%. They can't coordinate properly." But the Devourers adapted quickly, as they always did. Within minutes, they had filtered out most of the disruptive frequencies and restored partial communication. They began firing on the human ships with weapons that could slice through planets. This was when humanity played its second surprise. Instead of trying to avoid the devastating alien weapons, Captain Robert Hayes and his squadron of boomboats flew straight toward them. The Devourers had never encountered enemies who used their own ships as guided missiles. "This is Hayes," Robert's voice came over the radio as his ship accelerated toward a massive Devourer battleship. "See you all in hell." His ship struck the alien vessel at tremendous speed. The explosion that followed was visible from Earth, a new star that burned for 30 seconds before fading. When the light cleared, both ships were gone, but they had taken out 3 other Devourer vessels in the explosion. Across the battlefield, other human pilots were making the same choice. They flew their explosive ships into enemy formations, causing chaos and destruction that no military computer could have predicted or planned for. "They're using themselves as weapons," transmitted one Devourer unit to another, though the message was partially garbled by a jazz saxophone solo playing from a nearby human ship. "This behavior is not in our database." The Devourers tried to adapt to this new tactic, but humans kept changing their approach. Some ships exploded on impact as expected. Others waited until they were inside enemy formations before detonating. Still others pretended to be destroyed, then exploded when Devourer salvage ships tried to examine the wreckage. Dr. Jennifer Walsh watched her computer virus spread through the Devourer network like digital wildfire. The machines tried to purge the infection, but the virus had been designed to behave unpredictably. Just when they thought they had contained it, it would pop up somewhere else and start making their weapons fire at random targets. "Their targeting systems are completely confused," Jennifer reported gleefully. "Half their shots are missing because the virus is telling them to aim at coordinates that don't exist." But the real turning point came when Lieutenant Commander Mark Thompson implemented his most ambitious plan. Every remaining human ship in the fleet suddenly began broadcasting the same song, "We Will Rock You" by Queen, played at maximum volume and accompanied by every other piece of defiant human music that had ever been recorded. The combined sonic assault was more than the Devourer collective consciousness could process. Their machines, designed for efficient data processing, were overwhelmed by the emotional chaos of human artistic expression. It was like trying to compute poetry or measure the exact weight of a feeling. "They're shutting down," Elena watched in amazement as Devourer ships throughout the fleet began to go dark. "Their AI systems are overloading trying to process all this chaos." But humanity's greatest shock to the galaxy was still to come. As the crippled Devourer fleet attempted to retreat, human boarding parties led by Marine Colonel Sarah Mitchell began attacking the disabled ships. The Devourers had never encountered enemies who boarded their vessels during battle. "We're inside their command ship," Sarah reported as her team fought through corridors designed for machines, not humans. These things don't know how to fight people in close quarters. The Marines moved through the ship like a force of nature, planting explosives, stealing technology, and generally causing the kind of improvised chaos that no military database could predict or counter. They didn't follow any civilized rules of warfare because they didn't know what those rules were supposed to be. By the end of the battle, half the Devourer fleet was destroyed or disabled. The survivors retreated to the edge of the solar system, where they sent frantic messages to their main collective, trying to explain what had just happened. The messages were difficult to compose because human music was still interfering with their communication systems, and several of their ships kept playing Born to be Wild at inappropriate moments thanks to Jennifer's virus. But the most shocking moment came after the battle was over. Instead of celebrating their victory or preparing for the next attack, humanity did something that no species in galactic history had ever done after defeating the Devourers. They offered to help them. Elena Rodriguez broadcast a message on all frequencies, both human and alien. To the Devourer Collective and any other species receiving this transmission, we have information that can help you fight back. We're sharing our battle data, our tactics, and our technology with anyone who wants to resist. Vorthak watched in amazement as humans began broadcasting everything they had learned about fighting Devourers: technical specifications, battle tactics, computer viruses, and yes, even the complete catalog of human music that had proven so effective at disrupting machine intelligence. "Why are you giving this away?" Vorthak asked Elena. "This knowledge could be traded for great wealth or power." Elena looked out at the stars, where she knew other species were receiving humanity's gift of chaotic warfare. "Because that's not why we fight. We don't fight to conquer or to rule. We fight so that everyone gets to keep fighting." The broadcasts reached civilizations across the galaxy, species that had been hiding in fear of the Devourers for centuries. For the first time in galactic history, they learned that the machines could be beaten. More importantly, they learned that the secret wasn't better technology or superior strategy. The secret was embracing chaos, creativity, and the willingness to try things that made no logical sense. Within months, the galaxy began to change. Species that had hidden for generations started building new kinds of ships, composing their own chaotic music, and developing unpredictable battle tactics inspired by human examples. The Devourers found themselves facing enemies they couldn't understand or predict. Species that had once followed logical military doctrine now fought with creativity and emotion. The machine's perfect efficiency became a weakness when faced with opponents who refused to be efficient. Earth became the unlikely capital of a galactic resistance movement, not because humans were the strongest or the smartest, but because they had taught the galaxy the most important lesson in the universe. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to hit it with a guitar solo and see what happens. As Elena stood on the bridge of the first human starship to travel beyond the solar system, she reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had gone from discovering they weren't alone in the universe to leading a galactic revolution in just over a year. "Where to first?" asked the ship's captain. Elena smiled as she looked out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so frightening. "Anywhere that needs to learn how to fight dirty and play loud music." The galaxy would never be the same, and that, Elena thought, was exactly the point.